and helped the communists ultimately complete their conquest of South Vietnam. Now, we've been pointing out the truth about Cronkite's record, that he wasn't an objective journalist, that he was liberally biased. We've also called attention to some of the other curious things in his career, such as an interview he gave to a Soviet journalist where he said that he didn't think the Soviet Union was ever a military threat. He gave that interview just a few months before the Soviets invaded Afghanistan. This was part of who Cronkite was. He was certainly a liberal newsman, but his views went beyond liberal to far left, to the point that after he retired, he came even more out of the closet, so to speak, by showing up at places like the left-wing People for the American Way, where he openly denounced President Reagan's military actions in Grenada and against Libya over Libyan support for terrorism. And Cronkite then would show up at places like the World Federalist Association. This is a world government group where Cronkite got a Global Governance Award, and openly, and in fact, in this appearance and in his own book, he endorsed world government and called for the United States to give up its sovereignty and pass all kinds of UN treaties, ranging from the Law of the Sea Treaty to the Convention on the Rights of the Child to the Women's Rights Treaty. He wanted us to sign up and ratify the International Criminal Court Treaty. I mean, this is who Cronkite was. Now, granted, a lot of this came out during his retirement, but we submit, and this is why I wrote my column, that his bias was apparent when he was anchor of the CBS Evening News. He contributed, as our founder, Reed Irvine, pointed out, he contributed in a major way to America's defeat in Vietnam. And I repeat, the loss in vain of 58,000 American lives. This is the kind of power and influence that Cronkite had at the time, and he tried to use that influence against President Reagan when Reagan tried to rebuild our defenses. Cronkite's a guy who later would say that he thought Jimmy Carter was the smartest U.S. president he'd ever met. Jimmy Carter? I mean, that was a disastrous presidency. Look, it's too bad. It's tragic that he died, although he lived a long life. But let's put his career and his record in perspective. He wasn't the voice of God. He was a symbol of liberal media bias, and we have to recognize that. We have to recognize the facts about who this man was and the damage he did.
Well, Cronkite never seemed to be a very objective journalist to me. I mean, I liked his voice, but I never thought he knew everything. Thanks for the report, Cliff.
Michael, great to be with you. Thanks again.
This is the Savage Nation. I'll be back. Savage.
Your money, your life. How to make sense of it all. I'm Rob Black. Join me weekday mornings at 10 on Talk 910 KNEW.
I told you earlier about the corruption sting in New Jersey and New York. Well, you have to hear some of the details on how Jewish rabbis were involved in this web of thievery. It's horrible. Listen to government attorney Mark McCarran talk about listen to how much money these guys pulled in from the unsuspecting, the worst of all, the kinds of organizations they use to wash this money with. That's right, charitable organizations. I guess Madoff wasn't enough. They had to pile this on top of everything else. State legislators, several rabbis were arrested with a major corruption and international money laundering conspiracy probe, including the sale of kidneys. They paid $10,000 for the kidney and sold it for $160,000. In other words, they bought near and they sold dear. They bought low and they sold high. When confronted by this, one of the rabbis said, "Organs? I know nothing of organs. I don't go to church." Here's what's on michaelsavage.com. Queen Elizabeth, only you can fix the mess that the Labor government has gotten themselves into. The fact of the matter is, it's a nightmare what they've done to me. I am innocent. They are guilty. Jackie Smith resigning is not enough. It's only the beginning. I want an apology. I deserve an apology. I am appealing to you, Queen Elizabeth II, who I have always respected. The British Embassy confirms that Michael Savage is still banned. On Sunday morning, a blockbuster story will be released to the press in England that will finally show you who was behind this, who else may be on the list, and why I am an innocent man. Shame on all of you in the media for not trumpeting this case. Obama called cops stupid. His flag says that the cop is not stupid. Obama suffers a major, major defeat in that the Senate has withdrawn the so-called health care reform bill, and it's been shelved until the autumn. Thank God. This will destroy the Obama juggernaut. Make no mistake about it. It has been derailed. His presidency has been derailed. The American people are on to him. By September, they'll be all over him. Shockingly, out of Boston, the Boston Globe has eliminated the police report about the arrest of Harvard professor Henry Louis Gates, Jr. Why? Because the police report presents such a damning picture of this two-faced, phony professor that they threw it out of the newspaper, but you're going to hear it live on the Savage Nation. I'm Michael Savage. We'll be right back. Savage.
Hi, it's Roger Hitchcock coming up at 7 on Talk 910 KNEW. Right now, Michael Savage.
Linked on michaelsavage.com is an article from the American Thinker by a psychotherapist living in Berkeley who has recently become a conservative. After a lifetime of liberalism, she has written an article entitled Are Men Obsolete? And the author, Robin of Berkeley, joins us now. Robin, welcome to the Savage Nation.
Well, Michael, first let me say I am so thrilled to be on your show because you are a big reason of how I have woken up. I have always been a very far-left person. I grew up in New York with a dad who thought that liberals were great and conservatives were the devil. So I was brainwashed since childhood. And then I moved about 30 years ago to Berkeley. And so Berkeley is the center of the far left, as we all know. And so then I went very, very left in my politics and also started believing that conservatives were bad and liberals and the left were great. And I just sort of went along in my bubble for all these years. And I woke up last year. And as I say, Michael, you were a big part of it. For me, what had happened, looking back, I realized it's sort of like being in a marriage where I was very happy at first, and then I was disgruntled, but I didn't know why. And what happened for me specifically is that I was a supporter of Hillary, and then I could see how the left really went after her and vilified her. And this may sound odd, but I was shocked. I had no idea that my beloved leftist people would actually be so mean and so horrible and trash her like that. So something woke up for me. And also I was working with a client who was also being just terrorized at her job for the same reason, for supporting Hillary. So I realized that something was wrong on the left and that I had not seen it before. And I didn't know what it was, and I was completely confused. I didn't have any friends at all who were conservative. So out of desperation, I started looking around to try to get some answers. And I heard vaguely about talk radio. I just knew that there was something, so I scanned my dial. And, Michael, I found you. And here you were talking about Obama, and you were spot on. And I'd never heard a man like you in my life. And ordinarily, I would just have turned you off. But you were talking about Obama. You were spot on. And you were saying so many other things that, to me, were brilliant. And what I could tell about you right away as a therapist is that you can really, you have what I call a creep detector, a radar for creepy people and creepy situations, which is something that I have that not that many people have. I mean, I think we have it in childhood, and somehow that gets taken away from us as kids. And you were seeing right away that something was off. But what was so helpful to me is you were filling in the history. You were talking about socialism, and you were talking about philosophy and religion and spirituality, things I was interested in but didn't know that much about. And so you started filling in the information for me that I was missing, and I became glued to your show, listening and getting some more facts. And also going out and meeting some new people and reading. And I had to educate myself. I had to do my own little re-education camp just for myself because I'd always been so far left. I had to learn what has actually gone on with the left that I was completely ignorant about.